Hello, my name is Marty Windle and welcome to the SBL Guru podcast. We're on another episode of our program Strategy in Real Life, where we take elements of the SBL syllabus and we apply them in real life organizations. Today we're going to talk about the part of the syllabus which is leadership, and in particular talk about how leadership will influence the ethical performance of the organization and the company culture. And once again, we're going to talk about the story of Uber. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with Uber. You've probably traveled in an Uber before. Uber's story is one of rapid growth and innovation, but also major issues in terms of leadership challenges, ethical failures, and a journey towards rebuilding trust with the public. We'll explore poor leadership decisions in Uber's early days, which led to significant setbacks, and why ethical leadership is now a vital part of the company's success. So it links right into the SBL syllabus for ACCA, where they talk about leadership and the importance of leadership traits and the role of an effective leader in the organization, under section A1 of the syllabus and section A2. So if we look at leadership in Uber, we need to go back to the past when the leadership was under the co-founder and former CEO, Travis Kalanick, who was well known for his aggressive disruptor mindset. Now, his leadership style was one that was unapologetic, bold, and laser focused on growth at any cost. Now, it was very successful. It played a key role in the rise of Uber and led to a big success in Uber in terms of growing in new markets around the world and also attracting billions of dollars in investment. Initially, he was seen as a visionary, pushing Uber to challenge entrenched industries and create a global phenomenon. However, this leadership was one that was aggressive, and it created a win-at-all-cost mentality. It bred a corporate culture because leader has a strong influence on the culture of the organization. It led a culture which was quite toxic within Uber. The employees who were working there described the culture as one which was hyper-competitive, but with little regard for ethics and long-term sustainability. A prime example of that is something I've talked about on another podcast, which is the use of the grey ball technology, which actively deceived regulators in areas where the company was facing legal restrictions. That was known about by the CEO and leaders in the organization. There was also a toxic undercurrent within Uber, and it was called a bro culture. It led to widespread harassment claims and deeper issues in terms of leadership, where people were not really considered to be a key part of the organization. So this high growth and toxic culture did come to a head in 2017, and the leadership style came under scrutiny when a former Uber engineer, Susan Fowler, published a blog post detailing rampant sexism, harassment, and misconduct within the organization. Her post triggered internal investigation, uncovering widespread issues in the Uber culture. Remember, leader has a strong impact on the company culture. The key aspects of that were systematic discrimination, a lack of accountability, and a focus on unethical practices. Now, this crisis led to the resignation of Kalanick as CEO and a major damage to Uber's reputation, with investors, employees, and the public losing confidence in the company's leadership. So from an SBL strategic business leader perspective, it highlights the dangers of autocratic, results-driven leadership without a strong ethical foundation. Leadership isn't just about driving performance, it's about creating the right environment where ethical behavior is prioritized and stakeholder interests are respected. That's what we want from an ethical leader in the organization. So when we talk about ethical leadership, it's all about setting the right example through having value-based decision-making. It's not just about personal integrity, but about embedding ethics in the company's operations, culture, and strategy. So when you have an ethical leader at the top of the organization, you've got to balance the needs of different stakeholders, prioritize sustainability and corporate social responsibility, and also lead from the top by showing that you are the voice of the organization and people will always follow the leader. So there was a new leadership in Uber. The new leader was Dara Khosrowshahi. So when Dara took over in 2017, he made it clear that he would focus on transforming Uber's culture and repairing the damage that had been done. So remember, the leader is going to have a strong influence on the culture of the organization, and cultural change cannot happen without the support of the leader. So in order to build that new culture, Dara created new values in the organization, especially emphasizing key values of transparency, accountability, and ethical decision-making. Now, they built a set of company values and building that culture by having slogans. A key part of cultural change is having slogans in the organization. We do the right thing was one of their principles. We act like owners. We value ideas over hierarchy. So they tried to create a new culture, new core values in the organization. Dara also quickly moved to implement systems which encouraged ethical behavior. He introduced a program called 180 Days of Change, which focused on improving the treatment of Uber drivers, an important stakeholder group that had long felt marginalized by the company's policies. This included higher earnings, improved safety, and better communication with the drivers. So the leader is showing that they want to change and they're listening to some of the smaller stakeholders in the company, but very important stakeholders to the success of Uber. So the leader of the company was sending the right message. We're moving away from short-term gains towards building long-term trust with both drivers and riders. The priority is not just about growth, but also thinking about the well-being of the stakeholders in the organization. This brings us to important lessons in relation to the SBL syllabus, that Uber's leadership failures are important and have far-reaching consequences, not just for the company, but the entire corporate ecosystem. Under the old leadership, it was a free-for-all type of culture where the people within the company, the managers, could act with impunity, and a culture in which growth was prioritized over ethics without fear of any repercussions. There was a famous example of this with something called Project Hell, where Uber employees were reportedly instructed to spy on competitors and engage in underhand tactics to gain a competitive advantage. This culture of ethical ambiguity caught up with Uber, resulting in a number of lawsuits and regulatory changes. This illustrates the importance of checks and balances within the organization, and strong leadership requires not only ethical guidelines, but ensuring mechanisms are in place to enforce them. So it's all right having a code of conduct, a code of ethics, but you must have systems in place to take action when people are not following the code of ethics. There must be proper governance in place, proper internal controls to make sure people are following those values and action is taken when they are not following those values. So in order to change the culture, Dara, the new CEO, got rid of quite a number of board members, board of directors in the organization, and tried to introduce a more transparent reporting system for ethical violations in the company. There was a whistleblowing system. So he's sending the right message to the people in the organization. Something goes wrong, please let us know and we will take action. So it's not just about what you say, but it's also about what you do. So the leader must take action and show that they are willing and committed to change in the organization if the culture is going to change. So one of the things they did was to improve transparency, and in 2019, Uber issued their first ever transparency report, which detailed how they handle law enforcement requests and data security incidents. Now, this level of openness and transparency was a significant departure from the secretive practices of the past and help to rebuild trust with regulators and customers. Another major issue that they focused on was their corporate social responsibility, and they've introduced programs to reduce their carbon footprint. And in Uber, they are pledging to become fully electronic vehicle platform by 2030 in major cities. So this demonstrates a commitment to long-term sustainability and addressing environmental concerns, which are increasingly important to both customers and to regulators. What else did they do? They focused on internal ethics training within the organization, workshops and seminars on issues like diversity, inclusion, and anti-harassment policies. The leader wants to ensure people understand the importance of ethical behavior, but also feel empowered to speak up when they see wrongdoing. We see how leadership within Uber went from failure to redemption. The leader can have a big influence on the ethics and culture in the organization. And we see that when Dara came in, there was a big change in terms of more transparency, more training, better controls, new leadership at the top. And this affected the culture within Uber and created a more ethical, transparent, and a culture more focused on corporate social responsibility. This has helped to build the brand of the organization and has helped to introduce a better culture for the people working in the company. And when you've got a better culture, you can attract talent to that business. So when you're in the SBL exam, you can take some of these ideas and apply them into your case study answer. You can talk about things in relation to cultural change, because exam questions do ask how to change the culture, and you can bring in some of the ideas that Uber introduced to enable you to answer the question. Talk about training, talk about communication, talk about changing the board membership, talk about slogans in the organization, talk about effective leadership from the top to send the right message to the people at the lower levels, and talk about engagement with your stakeholders. Transparency are an important part of influencing company culture. So if you get asked a question in the SBL exam about company culture, you can use some of these ideas from Uber to answer questions about cultural change or how leadership can influence the organization. So take the lessons, apply them into your examination. Well, that's another story for you about something in the SBL syllabus, leadership and culture, and it could be important for you in your exam. If you want more details about how to pass SBL and my paid courses, just go to www.sblguru.com. You'll find out about all my courses there. It's also got more of the free material that I give out to students who cannot afford my courses. Thanks very much for listening. My name is Marty Windle. Don't forget, this podcast is free, so please like and subscribe. That will help to get my podcast to more people. Thank you very much, and good luck in your exam.